Here includes Benjamin Franklin's son and recreates certain aspects of his life. Here is an interesting experiment of a film, taking place across the course of history but remaining in a single static location. The timeline shifts centuries from scene to scene, exploring the lives of certain families who briefly live in the same space, and eventually the same house, within the United States. Here's cast therefore features characters from before the colonization of North America up through the modern day. This includes a few snapshots of the 18th century in the years surrounding the United States War for Independence. These snapshots are largely focused on the Franklin family, including the iconic founding father, Benjamin Franklin. Specifically, the camera ends up directed towards a home owned by his wealthy son William, whose close connection with his father had festered into an open feud by the time depicted in here. This is the film's most overt historical connection, and does an interesting job of highlighting the film's overarching themes while reflecting the true life story of Benjamin, his son William, and his grandson Billy Temple Franklin. Here is how historically accurate the William Franklin subplot in here eventually proves to be. William Franklin was Benjamin Franklin's illegitimate son in real life. William Franklin really did have a falling out with his father. Noah Jupe and Michael Douglas as Temple Franklin and Benjamin Franklin F.I. Benjamin Franklin and his illegitimate son William appear in here, reflecting on their real strife. Here takes place in a single setting, revealing all the people who live their lives in the same area across the course of time. One of the minor subplots introduced this way takes place in the era of the American Revolutionary War, focusing on the wealthy William Franklin. The wealthy landowner and his wife are quickly established as loyalists, who dismiss the core ideals of the American War for Independence and refer to Franklin as a terrorist for his decision to help lead this push. William Franklin in here is a fairly accurate reimagining of the real-life figure. Born in Philadelphia, William was the son of Benjamin Franklin and an unknown woman. Raised by Franklin and his common-law wife Deborah Reed, William spent years by his father's side as his assistant and was even present for Benjamin Franklin's immortal kite experiment. Eventually appointed colonial governor of New Jersey, William and Benjamin's close relationship fell apart during the American War for Independence, as the two men found themselves on opposing sides of the conflict. This is the period the pair are seen in throughout here. Did William Franklin and his father Benjamin Franklin really hate each other? Benjamin and William had different views on the American Revolution. Benjamin Franklin holds a glass of wine during a dinner in Franklin Season 1 image via Apple TV+. In here, William and Benjamin both bemoan the state of their relationship. At one point, William complains to his wife about his father and notes dryly that no one will remember the Benjamin in the long run, a sentiment that is comically contrasted by showing Richard and his brother dressed as Benjamin Franklin for a Halloween party centuries later. By contrast, Benjamin seems more somber about their relationship, speaking with William's son Billy about how he wished their connection wasn't so fraught. Both men weakly promise not to discuss politics, a reference to the nature of their real-life falling out. This somber state of their relationship in here reflects the real-life history of the two, which was never repaired. William remained a loyalist throughout the War of Independence, calling for the colonies to remain connected to England. His decision to actively lead the Loyalists further drove a wedge between him and his father, even while Billy remained by Benjamin's side, with their meeting in here implied to be among their last in-person meetings. Although the pair tried to reconcile later in life, their feud extended beyond Benjamin's death, as he left only worthless lands to his son in his will. William and Benjamin Franklin's role in here explained. William and Benjamin Franklin are contrasted against Ull and Richard Young. William and Benjamin Franklin don't factor into much of here, but they do serve as part of the movie's thematic through-line about the common experiences and conflicts of family. William and Benjamin's feud is directly contrasted with the more minor tensions that fester between Ull and Richard Young in the 20th century. At the same place where Benjamin and William complained about one another centuries prior, Ull and Richard snarkily call one another out for their mistakes. Both sets of father and son are strikingly similar in their convictions, and both sons have a child who clearly adores their grandfather. Notably though, the two men actually get the chance to reconcile in the 20th century, a far cry from Benjamin and William's relationship. After the death of Richard's mother Rose, Ull moves back into the house with Richard. Although this further splinters his marriage with Margaret, Richard later sadly admits that he's glad that he and Ull were able to talk things out and find peace before Ull passed away. This is a particularly tragic contrast to the final meetings of William and Benjamin, which were reportedly civil but ultimately unable to unite the two as they once had been. How accurate here is to William Franklin's true story. Here is fairly honest about Benjamin Franklin's feud with his son. Benjamin Franklin getting off a carriage as he arrives in France in Franklin Season 1 image via Apple TV+. William Franklin doesn't feature into much of here, but his story does seem to be fairly accurate to the events of real life. Eventually forced to abandon his mansion, the woods near his former abode eventually becomes a camp for the Revolutionary Army before becoming a place of celebration after the war is won. William's status as a wealthy figure in colonial America and frustrations with the treasonous efforts of his fellow Americans seems consistent with how history recounts that era. William was a vocal critic of the fight for independence, making his personality in here seem true to life.